We are going to get diamonds. Safely, might I add. Very, very safely. Goats can be milked? Excuse me? I could have had milk earlier if I just used the goats in the spawn area? Whack. storming. Oh my.
And a big part of this is we can now have a body accessory as well as a new weapon, so this is extremely helpful. The pirates don't provide much of a challenge since we've upgraded all of our gear and most of them are able to get one-shotted. We get rewarded with the ship for a fight that they started, so I think all's good in the world. The monsters on the sea at this point, I think, offer more gil per battle than what the mobs do around Elfheim. They also give some really nice experience. The wolves around Elfheim don't really provide that much with how common they are. So I spent about another 10 to 15 minutes out on the sea gathering more gil, and then in Elfheim we're also able to upgrade everyone's weapon to a saber, which is a pretty big damage increase. I also did enough random battles to make sure that I can buy 99 potions as well as a healthy handful of antidotes because the marsh cave will be consuming them. Quite hefty. With most of the areas in the earlier Final Fantasies being pretty linear, you can go ahead and open up your map and you can see where the chests are in the area. So this guide's going to be assuming that we are getting all of the chests as we are able to. It's important to be fully healed and to quick save before opening this chest, as it can be very RNG heavy on if you're going to get a game over or not at this point. Zidane falls pretty early, so that's a decent damage loss, but with the high potion in our inventory, we're able to heal up Locke all the way, and then we're able to secure the victory. I try and make sure everyone's alive at the end so everyone can reap the experience reward. You can ignore the far south row of rooms. You need the Mystic Key, which we'll be getting soon. Now that we have the crown in our possession, we'll go ahead and exit the cave and run north, and we will come across the western keep. It's important to make sure that everyone is fully healed before talking to the king, as this will initiate a battle against Astos. Astos isn't too tough at this point in the game, but he can quickly decimate your party if you don't go in fully healed. Keep the auto attacks going and some potions if you need to, and then he will fall within seconds. Upon his defeat, we will receive the Crystal Eye, which we need to go and give to Master Matoya in the cave above Cornelia. Our courageous adventures don't go unrewarded, so Matoya gives us the Jolt Tonic, which we will take over to the healer who is in Castle Elfheim, and this will wake up the prince. He conveniently gives us the Mystic Key, which is exactly what we need to open up these chests. Following the east side of the castle, this will lead us to a room that is north of us, locked by the Mystic Key. Next, I head over to Castle Cornelia, where we do the same thing. We'll follow the east side and then get the 2 rooms at the top for 6 more chests. Then we finish looting the first floor of the Chaos Shrine, and then we'll head all the way back over to the Western Keep, and we'll loot the building in the bottom left, and then we will finish out with looting the rest of the Marsh Cave on the 3rd floor. By now, with all of the random battles, you should have a healthy supply of restorative items, Phoenix Downs, as well as some money left over, so that way we can upgrade our gear again at the next city. Next, we'll take the boat over to the northwestmost dock and then head southwest to Mount D Cave. Be sure to collect all the treasure, and then when we're ready, we will give the nitro powder, which we already looted in Castle Cornelia, to the Dwarf Bro so he can have some fun with fireworks. And you guessed it, we'll go ahead and go and set sail through the canal, and then we will stop at our first port on the west side, Melmond. We'll make our way all the way to the southwest to the Earth Shrine, and this is again pretty linear, so go ahead and press square and loot all of the chests, and then towards the end we will eventually come across a pseudo-boss, the Vampire. Just as the battle starts, Locke almost gets Doom Trained, but then the Vampire dies. I have a feeling that Doom Train is just gonna start becoming the meme of this channel. How great would that be? Obtaining the Star Ruby from the chest, it's time for us to run all the way outside of the cave and then head all the way west over to the Giant's Cave, where we give the Giant our Star Ruby. He munches it down like a protein bar, and that gives us access to the rest of the cave. Be sure to loot the room to the south, and then we will head north into the opening and swing our way around over to the Sage's Cave. Upon talking to the Sage, he then gives us the Earth Rod, which will then be used all the way back in the Earth Cave. So, you guessed it, let's walk on back. Be sure you're fully healed and quick save before interacting with the orb. Alright, boss fight time. So the Lich is, or has the potential to be a very tough boss, depending on what he does. So the attacks themselves don't really do a whole lot. It's when he uses his slow magic on us that can really be the hardest thing. So essentially what that's going to do is drastically reduce our damage. So in my previous playthrough, my monks, they were hitting for 1 damage, and if they crit, it would be, I think, like 20 to 40 damage. It's really, really bad. When I was fighting him right here, we go almost the entire fight without him ever casting slow. He only casts slow when there's about 2 rounds left of his health bar, which was just absolutely awesome. And since I knew that he was close to being dead, I didn't bother letting the characters who had slow die off so that way I could res them. There was miraculously just 1 character who didn't get slowed, so they were my main damage dealer to finish off the Lich. Go ahead and heal up if needed, and then we can use the teleporter just north of the crystal to go ahead and get on out of here. Next up is Crescent Lake. Crescent Lake is a really big area in terms of experience boost that you're able to gain from the previous section, so it's definitely advisable if you're getting hit pretty hard to level up here and start building up your max HP pool. I make sure to try and refill on my recovery items, and then next we are over to the Sages. The Sage at roughly the 5 o'clock position is the only one that you need to talk to. You don't need to talk to anyone else. With the canoe tucked away in our magical pocket, we go ahead and set sail over to the volcano, and the volcano again is pretty linear. However, the random battles are plenty. You should have no problem leveling up a lot in this place. And just like before, go ahead and recover, quick save, and then engage the boss fight. This will be against Merilith. Merilith has 2 main outputs of damage. One is Fire, which is an AoE and hits all party members. The other one is a very heavy physical attack that hits for about 270 a hit. And with my HP pool of less than 400, either I heal that character and they can potentially live, or they just straight up get Doom Trained, as Edge is finding out the hard way. At this point in the game, potions are only used for recovering in dungeons while trying to travel to the boss. They should never be used in battle. That's what high potions are for. High potions are the best healing that we're ever going to be able to do throughout this playthrough, with the exception of an X potion and 3 elixirs. So depending on how you want to tackle these boss fights, you could have 1, 2, or maybe even 3 characters spam high potions every turn. For me, I usually try and stick to 1 to 2 depending on what the boss fight is later down the road. Towards the end of this fight with Merilith, I was kind of panicking a little bit and was using a lot more people to try and heal. As you can see right here, I'm just down to Shadow, and I'm desperately trying to res more people, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make it and we died. Taking into account what we learned on the first fight with Merilith, we don't have just 1 person start to heal. We actually use everyone to start heal, really depending on what she does. Her physical attacks that target single players are probably the most deadly, and then followed by a fire up. Because what that means is when the physical attack is almost 300 damage, a high potion's only going to account for half of that. And then with a Fire coming the next turn, that's an AoE onto everyone, so I'm already behind the healing curve. And of course, with being behind the healing curve, it means I'm behind the damage curve because I'm spending my turns healing instead of doing damage. And so cutting most of this fight out and fast forwarding to the end, we do have a second game over against Merilith. After the second wipe, I was considering leveling up some more, but I felt like she was almost close to dying, so I decided to give it a third try. This third attempt was just all over the place. Locke died 6 times on this fight. So, yeah, that's a lot of downtime on damage, which also means that I'm spending most of my turns using Phoenix Downs and high potions. So I think I got pretty lucky in terms of RNG on what Marilith was using in terms of attacking me. Towards the second half of the fight, Marilith was using a lot of blinding effects, which gave me a lot of time to recover for my party, and this fight took about 9.5 minutes. Next up is the ice cave just north of the volcano, and it can be reached via canoe. You'll proceed throughout the ice cave until you reach this room. Do not step on the cracks yet.
Don't know how to make rope in there.
Step on the crack, but don't fall and break your back. There's only 2 goals here. One is to collect every chest, and the other one is to collect the levy stone. Now we'll head back onto the boat for our minigame. By holding the confirm or accept key, and then pressing cancel or back 55 times will bring you to this puzzle for the achievement. We'll bring the levy stone over to the desert to the south of this continent, and lo and behold, we now have our flying Mach 2 airship. With the airship, we will now go ahead and head over to Gaia, which is a really awesome place for 1, more experienced mobs, 2, to upgrade all of your equipment, and if you are using any magic casters, you can go ahead and buy magic here as well. This place also has an item store in the very north of the town. There's 2 goals for the Citadel. One is to open up all the chests, and the second one is in the very final chest, we will need the Rat's Tail to complete the 100% achievements. We'll need to eliminate the mob in front of the throne in order to use the throne to teleport all the way back to the start. You should have more than 40,000 gil for completing the Citadel, so next we will head over to the desert in the upper left-hand corner of the map and walk into the camp and buy the bottled ferry for 40,000 gil. We'll go ahead and stop by all the dragon caves here, and one of them will lead us to B2, where we will turn in the Rat's Tail and ascend our class. I'm just kidding. That's against the rules. Do be sure to enter in all of them and loot all the chests though, and then we will make our way over to Gaia, where the bottled ferry will automatically be released. Proceed north through the forest path and talk to the ferry, and they will give us the Oxyel, which will allow us to breathe underwater. Next up is the waterfall cavern, which can be entered in via canoe. At the very end, we'll need to loot all the chests and talk to the golem, and the golem will give us the warp stone, which we will need to access the flying fortress. We'll make our way over to Onrak, which is the town just to the southeast of the waterfall, and we'll enter in the barrel in the far east side of the city. To enter the barrel, this will take the Oxyel that we got from the ferry. We'll then arrive at the Sunken Shrine, and in my opinion, the Sunken Shrine has the second best music in the entire game. First, of course, being the Chaos Shrine. If you think differently, feel free to let me know in the comments. Be sure to heal up and then quick save, and then it is on to our next shrine boss, the Kraken. The Kraken has some pretty high physical damage, and the fight immediately starts off with our characters getting utterly clapped. Shadow gets 1-tapped, and we are not in a good spot. So I'm not exactly sure what the healing requirement is for this fight starting off, but I quickly noticed that just having one person throwing out high potions isn't going to be enough, so I then start to use Edge to start healing everyone as well, and this seems to be going okay. I'm able to recover quite a bit while still using Lock and sometimes Zidane to continuously deal damage. Now, because of the way the optimal equipment works, usually Lock is always going to have the best gear equipped, so I'll always want him attacking every single turn and having everyone else support him if needed. The Kraken does have 1800 HP, which isn't really that much, but it is noticeable. My non-crits are only hitting for about 60 damage on Lock, and the crits are hitting at maybe around a little over 100, I think. So it is going to be taking about 10 or 11 rounds for the Kraken to die. But I do keep up my high potions and rezzing people when needed, and it's really awesome that the Kraken doesn't really have a dangerous AoE that can just AoE my entire party down. So after a few minutes, we do fell this foe. This was a 8-minute fight. Deja vu, we go ahead and use the teleporter and escape. Now that we have the Rosetta Stone from the Sunken Shrine, we next need to head over to Melmond and talk to the blonde-haired scholar person up in the top right, Une, and he will teach us the language of Luciferian. Luciferian is like the language of the angels, and so we will go ahead and head over to Lufenia via airship. It is quite a walk south, but we will get there. I feel like they could have done a lot more with this town other than just have one NPC give us a key item that we need to enter the Mystic Tower. I really feel like they could have done a lot more with this town. We now have the chime in our inventory. It sounds like a pretty good investment. Yes? No? Alright, moving on. The chime will allow us to enter in the Mystic Tower that is in the desert. So from here, we'll go ahead and restock our recovery items, make sure we're fully prepared, be sure to hard save it outside of the tower, and then we will head in. There's a decent bit of chests that we'll want to get in here, and this is an amazing place to level up if you want to spend some time here. Here at the top, you can go ahead and view the dome, and it will show you a convergence point of where all the shrines are pointing to. This is not required. I actually completely skipped this on the first time that I played the Pixel Remastered, so this is kind of a cool little scene. I also didn't know about investigating this tile. Neat little thing. Recover and quick save before engaging in the battle with Tiamat. I'm going to cut a lot of this footage out because this was a 15-minute fight. I'm a really big fan of Tiamat's pixel art in this Pixel Remastered. He looks really cool. All of his colors look really nice. What's not really nice is how much damage he does. This dude hits like a tank. His AoE fire does about 130 damage, and it's about double that for our fourth character, Shadow. It's extremely hard to keep him up in the boss fights moving forward, so he's almost strictly on heal duty. Oh, and would you look at that, he's got Thundara too? Sure, let's just go ahead and take another 150 damage off of all of our characters and double that for Shadow. Sure, I can deal with it. Ugh, dragons, I swear, dude, they always think they're just the coolest things on the earth doing all this damage and everything. With all the AoE damage coming out, I'm trying to have everyone on high potions before I can take any more AoE, and then, oh my god, look at that, Shadow just got Doom Trained again. For all these fights moving forward, if I were to res Shadow, he needs to get 2 turns off for it to be worth the Phoenix Down. Of course, by any other character using the Phoenix Down, they could have just themselves used a high potion. And so, the second turn that Shadow is alive really when he has the added value of an additional high potion. I hope that makes sense. After keeping up the high potions and Phoenix Downs on what felt like forever, Tiamat finally falls. With the 4th Crystal Beast down, we will go ahead and warp out and then head over to Mount D and talk to the dwarf. This dwarf will take the adamantite that we got in the Sky Fortress and turn it into the Excalibur. Nice, finally an upgraded weapon. It has been so long. I mean, it's alright, I didn't want an upgraded weapon anyway. So at this point in the game, I am a little stuck in between 2 places on what I want to do. So I decided to go over to the Chaos Shrine, gain a couple levels, and then decide, you know what, since I'm going to be grinding anyway, let's go ahead and try and fight the War Machine over in the Sky Fortress. So I encountered the War Machine after about 30 minutes, and he face plants all of my characters just straight into the floor. There was no shot that I was destroying that thing. So I look up a guide on where all the weapons are, and so I head back over to the Sunken Shrine and start grinding white sharks, and this battle gives me 2 worm killers, which is 2 upgrades. I head back to town to make sure that the pirate is still staying out of trouble, and it looks like he is. I spent a couple more hours trying to find the War Machine, and I ran through all of my potions and high potions. So I went out, I refilled, and then I went back. And the amount of black flans that I've killed just makes me sick. If I ever have to see another one of these things, it will be way too soon. 100% with white mages. Hey, no, you be quiet back there. So after gaining a whole lot of levels, we try and fight the War Mech again. And it doesn't really go that well. He's still hitting me for about 270 per physical and still restoring 100 HP per turn. And I'm still not able to keep up the healing with high potions, even using 2 characters at a time. And he completely shuts down Locke again with a 400 physical damage hit. So fast forwarding a whole bunch of minutes and dead a second time to War Mech. At this point, I was feeling a little saddened, not really frustrated, but just kind of saddened because the amount of damage this thing's doing, it's really making me wonder if he's killable, but at the same time I could just level up more and give it another try. And then I noticed that there is the Masamune weapon that I still have to get. So this is where we start progressing through the Chaos Shrine. And these Death Eyes apparently have a 1% chance to drop an elixir. Alright, so a rematch against the stronger Lich with about 3 times more HP. So with Locke, I start using the Defender and Giant's Gloves combo, same with Zidane, and then I have Invisera on Edge being used. Throughout here, we still keep Shadow using high potions, and I bring in a second healer if needed. When the Lich use stopped, it only affected one person, which was pretty good from my standpoint. I continue to use Locke every single turn on attacking, and he's doing 100 plus damage with or without crits, so it's pretty steady. The Lich isn't really able to do anything to me right now. I don't know if this is RNG or just because of the Invisera that I use, but I am going to pound town right now. This is an awesome rematch and it's totally going my way. Next up is Marilith. So a lot of the same strategies that we used on Lich we are going to be using here. And for some reason, Marilith as well is just melting like butter. She's hardly able to do any damage to us, so we're being able to deal damage to her with more than just Locke, which is pretty nice. So we're essentially having double DPS on her. Just using high potions as needed, there's really nothing else that made this fight worrisome, so she falls within a couple minutes. Fighting the Kraken is exactly like it was the first time. He just does a little bit of AoE, which doesn't hit us hard at all, like 80 to 100. And other than that, his physical attacks don't really do that much. This fight was super easy, and I was actually kind of worried going into this, because usually the bosses are getting progressively harder and they hit progressively harder. But the Kraken was ideally just complete pushover. He falls in a couple minutes. With the Masamune, we now equip it on Locke, and we are actually able to do damage. This doubles his damage output, so that also means that his weapon can now go to another character. So right here I was thinking to myself, well, I could go and try and kill the War Machine now, or we could just go to Tiamat. And I figured, let's just go to Tiamat since I'm already on a boss killing streak. So with the same combos as before, Locke is now hitting for 600 plus damage. And Tiamat goes down quicker than a knife through butter. GG no re Tiamat. Fighting Tiamat kind of gave me a lot of motivation for realizing that, hey, I might actually be able to complete this run. So what do? I go straight to Garland after Tiamat. So I start preparing the items on what I want everyone to use with the Defender, the Giant's Gloves, the Invisera, and then his very first turn, he uses slow on my damage dealer Locke. This is already a game over. Talk about getting wrecked. I'm just going to fast forward this here to the death.
I remember
I wipe
now.
a second time on Garland and decide I need to start leveling up a lot more. So I head back over to the Sky Fortress and I encounter the War Mech. You guessed it, a third time. The War Mech's damage output is really hard to deal with until you beat the game. So I was kind of thinking to myself, when you beat Garland, you have the option to save the game, and then it reloads right before the Chaos Shrine, and at that point, you still have your X Potion and your Elixirs, and I was going to need them in order to be able to beat Warmech. Now, keep in mind, I'm still a thief, I'm not a ninja, so my access to weapons and armor is drastically reduced, and my stats aren't anywhere near as good. My damage is far lower than what it should be. This is all around a very hard and difficult playthrough. So after leveling up some more at level 84, I finally decide, let's go and try and beat Garland again, because I'm going to need to be higher level than what I was with my monks, because my monks were ascended, the thieves are not, so it only seems natural I would need to be higher level. And it was already difficult in the previous times with using the X Potion and Elixir, so here we go. So I start selecting the items that everyone's going to use, and Chaos immediately starts off with healing himself. And here I'm thinking, wow, this is really awesome. He already has an extremely low chance to heal himself, so he's probably not going to use it throughout the rest of the fight, right? Right? He then starts to proceed with a big tidal wave of Tsunami, which hits for a little over 200 per. And then he starts off with another AoE of Blaze for 160. And also keep in mind, Shadow's taking basically double damage from every single attack, and it's really hard to try and keep him up, so he's just on perm heal a lot. My strategy here is to have at least one attacker, possibly two, so Locke is always going to be in attack mode dealing the most damage because he has the most weapon. So he's always going to be doing at least twice as much damage as everyone else, even with crits. I decided that I'm going to be using 3 people mostly for high potions, trying to keep Locke up is priority, and I'll use a X potion or elixir if need be. Thinking back, it's kind of crazy how much these strategies differ from the monks to the thieves. With the monks, there wasn't any healing at all other than the X potion and the elixirs, whereas with thieves, I'm actually using 2 to 3 people to spam high potions while only one person does the damage. I didn't actually think this kind of strategy would vary that different between having 4 of one class, but this is a really different strategy. From here on for the fight, I try not to res Shadow as he's just a liability at this point. Taking double damage, he needs like 2 turns to recover from any single one of Chaos's AoEs. It's just really, really hard. So if I think that luck is on my side, I'll res him and hopefully he'll get an attack off or a high potion off or something, but most of the time he does stay dead for turns on end. As the fight progresses, I start to fall farther and farther behind on healing, and I really don't want to be using my elixirs unless someone is in critical HP, as it might be the only thing that's stopping me from killing this boss. So at this point in the fight, I feel like I'm getting a little bit desperate for healing, so I try and bring Shadow back up once or twice in quick succession, so that way he can hopefully get a high potion off, and right here, I am extremely close to game over. He is just AoEing my party extremely hard, so I finally pop an elixir on Locke, and I start to try and recover everyone else. It was pretty nice when he used Firaga. It allows me some decent time to try and heal up because it doesn't do very much damage at all. Blaze, on the other hand, does some damage. I know this fight's been dragging on a while, and I can just feel my adrenaline and my blood pumping. I know that he's got to be close to dying, so I continue pressing the attack with Locke and trying my hardest to be smart about who I'm going to be targeting with my high potions. With the X potion already being used and all the elixirs being used earlier in the fight, it's really hard to tell if I'm going to be able to kill Chaos this time or not. Locke drops to 65 HP, and then I heal him just once, and he manages to AoE the group instead of physical attacking Locke. It's at this point where Locke's at 700 and everyone else is at 450 that I really think I have a real shot at killing Chaos. And he finally with a last-ditch effort. Can we all take a moment to just think about how crazy tuned Chaos is on these kinds of challenge runs? But we're not done quite yet. So remember earlier when I said that when you save the game and then you loaded it, you appear outside of the Chaos Shrine? So we now have our elixirs intact, so we go ahead and encounter the War Mech again. Oddly enough, it only took us about 3 or 4 minutes to face him for a 4th time when we were on our way back up there. So he falls extremely quickly, with Locke just dealing out a ton of damage, and it felt so good to use my elixirs and X potions to try and keep everyone alive, and then the War Mech just dies. And I didn't even have to use an elixir, it was more of just like a flex. But yeah, War Machine falls. And we still have one more achievement. In order to do the 100% run, we actually have to ascend the classes. So we go to Bahamut, we turn in the Rat's Tail, and this is our last achievement to unlock the 24 out of 24. GG. This was a really fun run. This was also really challenging. I had to spend a lot more time grinding than what I did on the monks. Although in all fairness, the monks did go to Black Belt, so I might redo the monk playthrough at some point. It would most likely be just as hard as the thieves. Maybe easier. I'm not really sure. Maybe someone can chime in. But that was a really, really fun run. I'm really glad that I decided to do the thieves. I also really hope you guys enjoyed the different way that I commentated on this video compared to my other challenge runs, I feel like it's a lot more natural for me to commentate the way I did through this playthrough instead of trying to describe everything that I'm doing, including the storyline. I felt like it was getting a little bit much. I would like to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you would like to get challenge run updates, joining my Discord is the perfect place for it. I also have a post in my community for YouTube as well as a specific channel in my Discord for challenge run ideas where you can pitch a game to me without a rule set. It would be kind of nice to know what kind of rules you would like me to follow, especially if I haven't played the game before. But do feel free to check the description below for previous challenge runs as well as my socials. 100% with white pages. Hey, for the last time, you shut up back there. If you're still here after almost 32 minutes, thank you very much for spending some time of your day here and watching. Can you 100% Final Fantasy 1 using only thieves? And yes, you can. I do feel like it does rely on some RNG as to how hard your main DPSer gets damaged and how quickly you use the elixirs and the X potion. If you're able to distribute those out throughout a longer fight, or the RNG isn't as heavy on your main DPS character, then yeah, of course you have an easier time. From my perspective, I think I had a fairly difficult time with this, to be honest. But I'm really glad I was able to showcase this for everyone, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. You all have been absolutely insane.
Is Timber disabled again or something?
And I am truly, truly grateful to each and every one of you who has watched the video as well as partaken in liking and subscribing as well as commenting. I really appreciate it. So next on the horizon, I am still proceeding through my Final Fantasy 13 run. To my knowledge, no one has done the rules that I've done with what I'm trying to do. I don't even know if it's possible, but I am damn well sure going to find out. It's going to be really, really hard, though. Hope you fellow RPG enjoyers have a good one, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Oh no.
Buksan the Xerox. Nakasaksak na?
No. Put in paper.
Ikaw mag-abot, sige, kuha ka sa ano. Diyan, sa lamesa ko, matatak. Pwede na?
I think so.
Zombies are everywhere in Minecraft. It can be a difficult mob and learn through, but this seemingly simple hostile is actually really complex. So in this video, you discover 50 things you probably didn't know about Minecraft zombies. When you're fighting zombies inside of Minecraft, something you might notice is that they will occasionally drop carrots as well as potatoes. You might be wondering why the zombies ever drop carrots and potatoes. Well, of course, the first reason is it gives the players a way without going to villages of getting your first seed crops to grow tons of carrots and also potatoes, but as well as that it's actually to symbolize the fact that zombies will go out and raid villages. When do zombies raid villages? Well, right now, as you can see here, we have a very large crowd of zombies that appear appeared outside this village and are now running towards it to start killing all the villagers. More or less, in Minecraft Java Edition only, there's a mechanic where rarely, outside of a village, you can have up to 20 zombies spawn in a sort of zombie siege, being like an ancient pillager raid variant. And the idea would be is that during these raids, the zombies would be taking a bunch of items from the villagers. You can obviously decide to kill zombies with either the flame enchantment or without the flame enchantment. And other than the additional damage, you might think that the flame enchantment has no use on the zombie, but it actually does. As we were just saying earlier, a zombie can sometimes drop a potato when killed. And something you may actually notice here is that this is not a standard potato, it is a baked potato. And what's so awesome about that is that if you kill a zombie with a flame sword, and it was going to drop a potato anyway, it'll now drop that as a baked potato. So you have an instant dinner from a mob, which is a lot better than what I can say a creeper will give you. 1 in 20 zombies aren't even zombies, they're zombie villagers. Zombie villagers are really interesting because they can generate in any of their professions. So you can totally find a zombie villager that is an inmate who can never have a job even after you cure it. But as well as that, the biome that it is dependent on what biome it spawns in. So if you have one of these zombie villagers generate inside a plains biome, you're going to get a plains zombie villager. But if they happen to generate inside of a savanna biome, you're going to get a savanna zombie villager. So when you're going through killing a massive horde of zombies, maybe you can even save and cure some of those zombies, eventually convert them into great traders. Zombie villagers generating inside of Minecraft is different between Bedrock Edition and Java Edition. You see in Minecraft Bedrock Edition, these zombie villagers will actually generate in a group. However, inside of Minecraft Java Edition, they'll always generate individually. And so because of that, you'll usually just find one lone zombie villager in a sea of other zombies. Whereas in Bedrock, it'd be a lot closer to finding a little cluster of standard zombies, and then seeing a small cluster of zombie villagers. Minecraft's underground is absolutely filled with mob spawners, and there's quite a few different variants of these mob spawners, but for the main type, 50% of them will spawn as a zombie spawner. You can actually see right up here next to the spawner, as well as some brand new zombies have appeared in here, which are apparently going to turn into some skull blocks because of a nearby catalyst. You can see over here we do have the zombie.
I am aware that mechanic with the catfishes probably has some farming potential.
You can absolutely find zombies in deserts, but 80% of them will spawn
As a pickup tool of some kind.
However, this number is different in Bedrock Edition, with only 70% of zombies inside of the desert turning into husks. Though 4 out of 5 zombies are husks inside of Java, and Bedrock it's a little less than 3 out of 4. Husks are not exactly the same as zombies. In fact, they have a couple of incredibly big differences. The first one is that when the sun eventually does come out, and it is a scorchingly hot day in Minecraft's deserts, these husks do not burn. In fact, even when other undead mobs, like let's say this skeleton over here, are burning up in the hot sand and sun, the husks are just chilling out with the creepers in the desert. Whenever you kill a zombie in Minecraft, they're going to drop an item known as rotten flesh sometimes. And when you eat rotten flesh, there's of course a chance of getting the hunger effect. However, the husks themselves can actually also give you this hunger effect. Let's test that right now. Our hunger has just ran out. You can see we don't have that status effect. When we're bitten by the husk, we now have well over 12 seconds of hunger. This can be really bad because of course there's no really good food sources in this biome anyway, and if you're fighting a ton of husks, you may end up being cursed with a very long-lasting hunger effect due to all the different husks that are trying to get after you. When you have a group of chickens inside of Minecraft and a zombie spawns next to it, there is a 1 in 200 chance for that to turn into a chicken jockey, which you can see right here. We have a baby zombie that is very humorously riding around that chicken, and it still can't damage us, although it's definitely not as quick as your standard zombie. However, if you just have zombies generating around normally and there are no chickens nearby, it is then a 1 in 400 chance for that to be a chicken jockey. It looks like some zombies have survived the day and are now burning to death. And what they'll generally tend to do is walk towards the water to make themselves stop being on
Not
fire.
really sure what to do with
Amazingly
these.
enough, those 3
I'm too
zombies
lazy to
will
organize
eventually
them.
convert into
For now, they're
hero.
just gonna stay there.
And this effect is made even better in Minecraft Bedrock Edition. The reason why is that zombies in Minecraft Bedrock Edition, when they convert into drowns, can also gain that trident in their hand. So you can actually farm a really great source of tridents by converting zombies into drowns in Bedrock. Drowned in Minecraft are basically an underwater zombie, and they don't have to just be converted from a zombie that went underwater. They can generate underneath here too in any fully dark water. The thing that makes drowned extra dangerous though is that at night they gain the courage to go onto land, as of course they would normally burn up here, even hitting you with a more melee attack. If you just place any small type of block, like let's say some carpets around the edge of your entire coastline, drowns and things like that will be completely willing to go over it one way. However, if we just escape on the other side here, you can see they're not going to get up on the land. Husks and drowns are of course both types of zombies, and we know that if a zombie is underwater, it'll convert into a drowned. What happens if we have a husk underwater? Will a husk convert into? Well, you can of course see this zombie and this husk are both shaking. Let's see what both these mobs turn into when they're underwater. And we just saw what happened there. We actually have the zombie went from a standard zombie into a drowned. Then we had the husk go from a husk into a zombie. It looks like that zombie is going to probably now start to also shake and convert into a drowned. So there's basically a double conversion that happens. The husk will first turn into a zombie and then turn into a drowned. Now zombies do naturally attack villagers inside of Minecraft, but something interesting you may notice is that this zombie is not trying to attack these villagers at all. The reason why is that zombies will always prioritize attacking players over attacking villagers, probably because players fight back and villagers don't. Whatever the reason is, just be aware of that. If you're in a village at night, those zombies will be drawn to the village by the villagers, but they're really going to be targeting you mostly, so it's really important to be careful of that. You might have noticed we found some iron leggings as well as gold in this chest, and zombies can actually generate with similar items. That's because zombies will often spawn into Minecraft wearing enchanted gold or leather armor, or even iron armor or other variants. And as you can notice here, we just have 2 armored zombies out of this incredibly massive crowd of them. However, the longer in an area in Java Edition, the local difficulty gets higher, which means that more and more of these zombies will generate in with armor, until eventually they'll be incredibly common. Zombies have one drop that above all the rest is incredibly overpowered. Now that's the fact that sometimes zombies can actually drop iron ingots. Now you might be wondering why in the world would zombies drop iron ingots? I'm not exactly sure, although we're probably supposed to assume they got them from villagers. Either way, this one seemingly inconsequential drop is actually really important because it can be one of the only ways of getting iron in a world like, let's say, Skyblock, that will help you be able to get a bucket to pick up water. Now, of course, baby zombies and baby zombie chicken jockeys exist in Minecraft Java Edition, but in Minecraft Bedrock, baby zombies can also ride pandas, chickens, as well as ocelots, cats, wolves, zombies, husks, zombie villagers, zombie pigmen, cows, pigs, sheep, horses, horse variants, mushrooms, and even spiders and poisonous cave spiders. And so the next time you're playing Minecraft Bedrock Edition, just be careful of baby zombies, because they can, of course, rarely combine with other mobs to make very dangerous and also unique variants. Most mobs in Minecraft start to follow you when you're within 16 blocks of them, but zombies will actually follow you if you're within 35 blocks. This one for Minecraft Java Edition. So in Bedrock Edition, they'll just follow you in the standard 16 block range. But if you're playing Java, you have to be really careful because it's very, very common for a very large group of zombies to pile up behind you that you can't even see because they might have even seen you from a full 35 blocks away. But in reality, by the time you find out, it might just be too late. Most zombies in Minecraft, of course, spawn with nothing and no armor, although a couple of them can have armor. An even smaller percentage of the zombies that have armor, in fact only 0.04% of total zombies have the ability to spawn in with full diamond armor. This is an incredibly crazy ability that zombies can sometimes have. Just know that the chance of finding one of these diamond zombies is so low, you'll probably never find one in your entire time playing. Also, because zombies can never spawn in the nether, that's why there's no netherite armor in zombies. Enchanted diamond is the best armor you could ever find on a zombie. Of course, we just looked at baby zombies, but there's also baby zombie villagers. However, what's interesting about both these baby variants of zombie mobs is that neither of them can ever grow up, except for in one situation. So of course, starting with the baby zombie, it stays like that forever. It'll just never grow up into an adult zombie.
What the heck?
But with the baby zombie villager, we actually can
My chickens!
and that's is to use a splash potion of weakness and golden apple on it, and you can actually cure that into just a baby villager. And then, of course, that baby villager can eventually grow up. And if it stays as a baby zombie villager, it can tend to grow up like that. Iron golems are, of course, the protectors of villagers, and so if, let's say, a zombie or a mob like that is nearby, that iron golem will grow up. However, something you might notice is not just the iron
Alright,
golem
yeah, I
that's
guess
fight.
skeleton farm for
In
my
fact, the
arrows.
zombies actively try and
It is
seek out
then.
and kill iron golems. You can see right here, we put down a good group of
I have some
zombies
eggs.
here,
I
and
hope
all
I can
those
spawn
zombies,
in
before the iron
2
golem is
chickens.
targeting them, are actually running over and trying to defeat it. Because the iron golem is so much more powerful than them, they're going to get killed every time. But as you can see here, if there is a large enough group, they could technically eventually overpower and kill that iron golem. Now, we all know the one nice thing about zombies is that if you sleep before they get to you, when it eventually does turn to daytime, all those zombies are going to burn up. However, you can actually stop zombies from burning up if you give them a helmet. Not all zombies can wear armor, but if you find a type that does, simply throw a helmet at its feet. That zombie will pick it up, and then once all of its other zombie friends have died, it will remain in the sun, being completely fine. It basically gives it full fire resistance, and this makes its function really similar to us. Turtles are a really fun mob in Minecraft, but be sure to protect any of their nests at night, because for some reason, zombies absolutely hate turtle eggs. As you can see right here, if a zombie spawns in near them, it'll actually go directly towards those turtle eggs and try and jump on them. You can see it literally goes and actually jumps up and down on top of those turtle eggs. Obviously, it's not nice for your turtles to be destroyed, but it is pretty funny to see this zombie jumping up and down on top of such an arbitrary block. One of the strangest items that zombies are able to spawn with is an iron shovel. In fact, the iron shovel can even be enchanted, like you can see right here. The zombies can't break blocks with the shovel, although we are in a desert right now, so maybe these 3 zombies are really just 3 zombified Steves that were in this desert trying to mine out sand. And shovel zombies aren't too rare, because 1 in 30 zombies actually spawn in building. Zombies have a range they can attack you from, so for example, if we run up to this fence, we can still be hit by them, even if we're not physically touching the mob. But in a situation where you have to be even more careful is when it comes to doors, because zombies can actually attack you through doors even if it doesn't seem like it. I'll show you right here. These zombies are aware that we're here, they're definitely trying to follow us. If we walk up to this door, you can actually see that those zombies are hurting and could even kill us if they see us and hit us through it. Those zombies can of course exist on easy, normal, or hard, but on hard difficulty zombies change a bit. The problem is that 10% of these zombies can actually break down your door. Like what this one is doing right now. It literally destroys the door. You can see the item actually pops off, and then they can somewhat get inside from that point. In fact, the zombies are going all around us, and they're trying to break down our walls. So only 10% of zombies can do this, but still be careful, because even just one door breaking can obviously let that entire stream of zombies in. You have to be careful though, because certain zombies are much more dangerous than others. This is since, as a really rare chance, zombies can sometimes spawn with an iron sword. Obviously, this makes their attack much worse, and you can even see if we have no armor on, one hit from that iron sword almost instantly kills us. Although we can thankfully escape to floating sections of mineshaft, that iron sword zombie is still quite dangerous, although the good news is that not even 2% of zombies spawn in with one. Zombies are about the same size as the players, so they need a 1 block by 2 block tall area to spawn in. It doesn't make sense, but this rule is the same for baby zombies, is that although baby zombies can only spawn in a 1 by 2 block tall space, they can actually walk in a 1 by 1 space. But the good news is that baby zombies cannot spawn in a 1 by 1 block space, which means that all your 1 block tall dark areas are not just going to get filled up with baby zombies. Zombies are undead mobs, and a really fun Easter egg that Mojang decided to put in the game is that splash potions of healing and harming are swapped with them. That's right, that means that we throw splash potions of harming at that zombie. They're going to hurt us if we get their splash range, but they're actually going to heal our zombie hero. Whereas with the splash potions of healing, if we get the radius here, it's going to heal us, but it's going to hurt our zombie quite a bit. In fact, only 2 splash potions of healing were enough to heal our zombie. We're not quite done experimenting on our zombies though, because we have to see the effect that a charged creeper has on one. If a charged creeper explodes next to a zombie, that zombie will drop its head, and this item is really useful. But it can be hard to get. In Bedrock Edition, however, this is a lot easier, because every mob that a charged creeper kills will drop its head if it's able to. And if you're wondering how to get a charged creeper, a channeling trident might help, because it's lightning that converts a standard creeper into its incredibly deadly charged variant. So that's how you get a zombie head, but what do you actually do with this item? Well, for starters, you can place down the zombie head, but you can also put it on. And if you put on a zombie head, not only will you then start to look like a zombie, but the zombies will also think you're a zombie. That's because wearing a zombie head will halve their range from being able to follow you at 35 blocks away to only 17.5 blocks away. And of course in Bedrock Edition, the 16 block follow distance is halved to only 8 blocks. So if you're wearing a zombie head, you are almost completely invisible to these mobs. This area has a high local difficulty, which means that up to 55% of zombies can pick up items. This also includes armor. For example, right there, that zombie just got a new hat. Or maybe this zombie right here is going to get its own stack of purple wool. Let's kit this zombie out with a diamond sword. And I think this zombie over here might need a rocket launcher. The only unfortunate thing is that although these zombies can technically pick up almost any item or piece of armor, they don't actually have the ability to really use any of these items. Believe it or not, one of the items that zombies can pick up in Minecraft is the incredibly overpowered Totem of Undying. Let's do a test and bring this zombie down this very conveniently placed diving board, which happens to not have a pool at the end of it. And let's punch our zombie off and see what happens. So when it hit the ground, it actually did get that Totem of Undying effect. Our zombie apparently survived, and you can even see particle effects here, which are indicating that the totem definitely did its work. Just be aware that if you give a zombie a Totem of Undying, it is absolutely going to use that. If you happen to defeat a zombie in Minecraft, it'll give you 5 XP. However, if you defeat a zombie that has armor on it, the amount of XP it gives you changes. But when a zombie spawns with equipment, it actually gives you even more XP. So of course you get that base 5 XP, but for every single piece of armor or equipment that the zombie has, there is an additional 1 to 3 XP. On this zombie then, that means we would get anywhere between 8 to 14 XP to kill it. That also counts for shovel zombies and any other type of zombie that has equipment. If you want to stop a zombie from despawning, there's actually 4 different ways to easily do that. The first one only works in Java Edition, and that is to place down a boat. The zombie will get trapped in the boat, and it'll never despawn out of there. The second trick is to name tag the zombie. This can be good if you have a large villager set up already, since name tags would be easy to get then. Another funny trick is to literally just give an item to a zombie. Once they have any item in their hand that they've picked up, it can also never despawn. And another way of doing this is by having it pick up a piece of armor, which is sometimes an easier option. Something I mentioned earlier is that zombies can't go into the nether, but there is actually one way that you can find zombie mobs in this dimension. The trick is to anger all the zombified pigmen. If we start hitting zombified pigmen, that'll actually hurt them. It'll make them want to call in zombie reinforcements. And if we keep hitting these zombie pigmen, eventually some should spawn. You can actually see there is some that are appearing around. And this can happen when any mob that's classified as a zombie gets hurt. It'll have that ability to potentially spawn in reinforcements. Obviously, if a zombie is exposed to the sun, that zombie will burn up and eventually die. But if the zombie is able to underneath blocks that save from the sun, it'll survive. Now, zombies definitely can burn underneath blocks that are transparent, so if a zombie's inside, but it's under glass, stained glass, or maybe a trapdoor, it'll still burn. Only one exception to this rule is the mob spawner, also tinted glass since it's not actually technically transparent in the same way. And finally, leaves. Now, most players would consider baby zombies to be one of the fastest mobs in the game. But are these mobs actually as fast as they seem? Even while just walking, no sprinting at all, we can outrun this baby zombie easily. The reason for that is that the speed that baby zombies travel at is the exact same speed that you can walk at, but they will sometimes slow down. But that also means that if you're running, especially running and jumping, then you can fairly easily outrun that baby zombie. This zombie on the right is completely different from the ones on the left. That's because this zombie is a leader. You might be wondering what in the world a leader zombie is, and it's a type of zombie that only 5% or 1 in 20 zombies are. So for example, here between these two we have 20, and just one of those 20 zombies is a leader. The difference between leader zombies and standard zombies is that leader zombies can spawn zombie reinforcements at a much higher rate. This means that because it's the leader, it has the ability to call other zombies in to fight. Looks like there's a zombie over there. I guess we should go defeat it. But actually, as we get closer to this mob, you'll see it's absolutely massive. That's because we're not actually looking at a zombie. This is a giant, a special type of mob that was never fully implemented into the game. you can still summon it with commands. But fundamentally, it's just a giant zombie. The only way to get this in the game is to run /summon and then giant, and that'll give you this massive mob. Giants can't hurt the player, but you can push giants around, and they can be killed. The giants have no AI. I feel like the best thing I could possibly add to this Cherry Grove biome would be a full-blown wither. At very least, that would hopefully get rid of all the incredibly large amount of zombies that are here. But in reality, the way the wither works with zombies is not what you think. Yes, of course, withers originally.
I think I can feel more hunger when I'm running
notice that this wither
while
is
carrying
not
the mob.
targeting those zombies at all. And that's because the wither, as an undead mob, is not going to hurt any fellow undead mobs. Of course, that includes our favorite zombie. Zombies are one of the most common mobs in the game. In fact, they can be found in literally every single overworld biome except for two. The first one is a little dangerous, that's the Deep Dark biome. Of course, this biome has a dangerous warden in it, so other hostile mobs aren't needed. And of course, in second place is one of my favorite biomes in the entire game, Minecraft's peaceful Mushroom Islands. Because as long as there's a cave biome underground, even the caves under here will not have a single zombie in them. On only one day out of the year, you can actually find two special types of zombies. The first one is the carved pumpkin-wearing zombie that of course is specific to Halloween. The second one is also specific to Halloween, and that is a jack-o'-lantern-wearing one. Of course, other than the item on their head, these zombies are basically the same as any other zombie. But it's cool that Mojang decided to make it even more interesting by giving us extra spooky zombies on Halloween. Zombies are obviously incredibly common inside of Minecraft, and so because of that, their most common drop, rotten flesh, is also going to be something you're going to find a very large amount of around. Because eventually, once this huge crowd of zombies dies, we're going to be left with tons and tons of rotten flesh. And make sure to save this rotten flesh.
Yeah, look at that. Already half hunger. I'm just carrying the chickens.
You can get 1 emerald for about half a stack of rotten flesh. Another great use for rotten flesh is as it's the cheapest item you can do that with. What happens in Minecraft if you're killed by a zombie when you have a lot of good items on you? Well, the first thing to know is that zombies can pick up 1 item in their hands, but we can absolutely have a full set of armor. If you have full diamond armor and that zombie happens to come in that area, pick up every single piece of armor that is nearby. The only piece of good news in this is that even though it's very difficult to now defeat the zombie that has full diamond armor, at very least 100% of the time, if the zombie picks up an item, it will drop it. Which means that eventually, after hitting this diamond armor zombie for a very, very long time, we will get our full diamond armor back, and also whatever item of ours is in its hand. It should take exactly 2 hits if we're not doing critical attacks to kill a skeleton, and it does. However, zombies have something called a natural armor, which makes this different. Which means that whenever they're hit, they take 1.6 up to 8% less damage per attack. This may not seem like a big deal, but we can prove it right here. Because if we hit the zombie twice, fully charged with our netherite axe, it didn't die. That did
Alright, before I go mining for diamonds,
by 1.68%.
first, 2 things.
That means that on our third hit,
Skelly
we should
farm
be able to
for arrows
because it probably only had
and
half or maybe
bones.
1 or 2 parts left. I have to say though, my
And
respect
I
for
want
zombies
to see
definitely
if
went
I
up
can-
when I realized that zombies will actually try and attack wandering traders, but that wandering traders will drink an invisibility potion to avoid this. We all find wandering traders.
You can
annoying,
also
and I'm sure
try
zombies
farming
will
arrows
But
on
of course,
villages.
if you actually do like wandering traders, just be aware
It's
of
actually
this,
quite
because that
simple.
means that they can definitely be killed by your zombies, and they do not turn into zombie villagers when killed. There's one other way to stop zombies from burning up in the sun, which is not getting them inside or giving them a hat. That's actually trapping the zombie inside of cobwebs. But if a zombie's inside cobwebs, it actually won't die from the sun. However, you can notice only this baby zombie isn't burning. Why are the adults burning? Well, it only works if the zombie's head is trapped in the cobweb, but as you can see here, all these zombies that do have their head in the cobweb, they're completely fine and are not burning up in the sun. So if you want to try and quickly save a zombie, maybe throw down some cobwebs, slowing it down, but also extinguishing it for some reason. It's always seemed to me that when you have a bunch of zombies underwater and they're starting to turn into drowns, and this is definitely not a very comfortable process for the mob, with them of course completely converting from one mob into another. However, a really crazy fact about when zombies turn into drowns is that it actually fully heals the mob. That's right, all these zombies turned drowned are now completely healed, and they're a fully powered drown ready to go with its full HP. And for our 50th fact about zombies, there's 2 enchantments in the game that are really important when you're trying to fight them. The first one is Sweeping S3, and the second one is Smite 5. Now what makes these enchantments so good? Well, it's pretty simple. Smite 5 makes there be extra damage to zombies, meaning that you can one-hit them. And Sweeping Edge is great for the ways that zombies work. What this means that if there is a big crowd of zombies and you swing your sword, you can hit a bunch of zombies at once, knock them back, and also getting damage to go to a bunch of different mobs at a time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video about 50 zombie facts in Minecraft. If you did, make sure to press the like button, subscribe to see more like this, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!
What can I make? I can try making one based on flowing water with a water wheel. Perhaps. That might be the cheapest. Yeah, it just needs a shaft and some planks. I already have a shaft due to a bit of stupidity I did a while back. And then I'll need... a gear. Huh. Ah, here we go, a cogwheel. That's what I want. I need more shafts. Oh, this should be enough. Let's just make one large and one small. I think it's made with copper. Ah, there's already copper bars and stuff in the create mod. Yeah, if I remember correctly. Seems a bit overpowered considering how easy it is to farm emeralds. I still want to find a jungle because I want scaffolding. That'd be so nice. Oh, they run fast. I don't remember them being able to do that. Hell yeah. It's not that fast, but it'll do for now. Hopefully. Alright, so I think I just put this here. No, I don't think that works. It's a gearbox. Powered by kinetics. I need something to... Ooh, what's a millstone? I'm not sure if it's working. I do think I need some sort of additional medium still. Let me try just... placing it here, maybe. Oh, that definitely doesn't work. Maybe I should just look it up. Just as a quick test. They do have a wiki. God damn it. It's in fandom. With all their obtrusive ads. I'm gonna have to open Google here instead on the PC with my ad blocker.
Hello, RPG fans, and welcome back to my 4th challenge run, Final Fantasy V. My previous challenge runs, as well as my socials, can be found in the description below. Final Fantasy V is the game that I would consider the precursor to one of my most favorite Final Fantasies, Final Fantasy X-2. With Final Fantasy V, they really took a step in a different direction with the class system, adding on classes that
I did. Let's go.
I did. He's not gonna have any fire types on him, though. It's fine.
Yeah, he's really not. Oh my god, he has a
He
hole.
sent out the Arcanine.
He sent out
Typhlosion. He sent out fire types for all of us. What is happening?
Full flinch.
That's so cool. Arcanine flinch.
We're synced up right now. Murk Crow. I'm gonna murk this crow.
I could use some.
Oh my god, it finally opened. Attach a rotating shaft to the shaft at the top of the tank. The heck is a rotating shaft? Hold on, let me just do my nightly dailies for Path to Nowhere.
Oh, are you here to see Michi? Feel free to take the time to look at the new supplies, too.
Maybe it's just referring to the actual normal shafts.
This is my least favorite dungeon in the game. However, before we get into that, I have to issue a spoiler warning, as usual. For the course of this video series, nothing is off the table for discussion as long as I feel it relates to the dungeons. So if you want to avoid spoilers, go ahead and save this video to
The
your watch
hexagantry
playlist.
shaft.
Come back after having at least beaten the dungeon featured here. With that out of the way, let's hop right into it. As with the last two dungeons, I made sure to consider the game's intended dungeon order and where the water temple falls into that. Technically, you can do these dungeons in any order you'd like, but the game still does imply an order, as I've already talked about in the last 2 videos. And just as before, I ran a poll. This time I asked which dungeon players had done third, and the results were pretty well what I anticipated. With 776 votes split between 5 options, 45% said that they
My
visited
order
the
was
Water
Wind Temple,
third.
Desert
Again, the results
Temple,
are not as drastic
Water
as
Temple,
the
and then
Temple
Fire
being
Temple
the first
last.
dungeon. But they are pretty well in line with the results of the Fire Temple poll. Nearly
I
half
wanted
of
to
the
be as
players
close
that
to
voted chose
as possible
this
to how I
dungeon
did it on my
third.
first
And
playthrough
I
originally in
find
Breath of the Wild,
these
which was
mostly with the
water,
same reasons as why the Fire Temple was second for nearly the
desert,
same amount of people.
wind,
The
and then
placement
fire.
of the regional crisis on the map, Hura's suggestion of where to head next, and the visibility of the regional phenomena itself all play their parts. This is something I've already covered twice now, so I'm not going
The
to
only
dwell on
reason
it
I
too
did the
much
Air
in
Temple
this
first
video,
was because
aside
I
from
was
saying
fucking
that this
stupid.
really feels to be the intended third dungeon. With that said, let's look at the pre-dungeon stuff to do leading up to the Water Temple. Our approach towards Zora's Domain will prey on our expectations. If you played Breath of the Wild, this stretch of path that winds around Zora's River will be very familiar to you. However, the main road is all but destroyed, and a nearby tower and a stretch of scaffolding will encourage us to approach the domain from the north side this time. This is the same familiar but fresh feeling as what I talked about with the new roads leading up Death Mountain last time. While it is feasible to take the old route, you're pulled in this direction instead by points of interest. Most notably the tower, of course. The regional crisis here is the constant downpour of sludge that is sullying the waters around Zora's domain. As it turns out, the sludge is caused by an imposter who is disguised as Mario, and so we have to use the new blood device to make fun. Jokes aside, I actually do really like the lead up to this dungeon. Reconnecting with Sidon at the new Mipha Court, which is in the same area where we previously challenged what was many players' first ever rival in Breath of the Wild, and running this little investigation into these ancient Zora ruins and manuscripts, finding Pristine Sanctum, it's all pretty fun to do. I absolutely adore ancient Zora architecture. It takes me right back to the Lakebed Temple of Twilight Princess. It's just really pleasant. This puzzle using King Dorephan's scale is really nice too. Something about reading a little riddle and finding exactly the right perspective to look at these floating ruins and see the correct arrangement of debris. It's all really clever. And we're teaming up with Sidon again to
Clearly, it was too clever. I couldn't solve the puzzle,
just like
and gave up, and did the Air Temple instead.
It's not at all difficult, but that is okay. It feels
Which
like
was brain dead easy,
tutorial
by the
for
way.
how to use Sidon's powers, almost like a little teaser for the actual dungeon boss itself. But the absolute best part of all this dungeon lead up is what comes next. Sidon will open this world pool up for you, which reveals the entrance to the ancient Zora Waterworks. I adore this place. That ancient Zora architecture really shines here, and the overall atmosphere feels sacred in a way that I don't find many other places in the game do. That is also in large part due to the music here. There's this feeling like the song is echoing down the halls and pipes of this place. It's beautifully done. It's one of my favorite tracks in the game. My biggest complaint with this place is that it feels like such a tease. The first time I set foot in here during my first playthrough, I really thought I had stepped into the next dungeon. It feels that way. We're led down an entryway that teaches us this water level changing mechanic before reaching a large central room that puts the same mechanic to use. There are little alcoves and tunnels leading in and out of said central room. I was thrilled, genuinely excited at what sort of great puzzles awaited me here in this incredibly atmospheric place. But then, this is it. We unblock the pipes, raise the water, reach this platform, activate the terminal, and then we're done. This is not the dungeon, and it makes the actual dungeon even more disappointing. The ancient Zora waterworks are bursting with untapped potential. I want to take my time, explore this place, and soak in its history. I'm pulled in and enthralled by its atmosphere and what its floor plan implies, but then it just ends. We'll touch back on this area a bit in the conclusion section of the video, but I'd like you to please keep what I've just said in mind. Once we've activated this and opened this waterfall, we can finally head not into the dungeon. Wellspring Islands are a series of sky islands leading up to the dungeon. Just like the Rising Chain Islands during the Wind Temple's approach. A similar thing is done here, and it is actually pretty good stuff. There are plenty of baddies, secrets to find, and puzzles to solve in order to go from one island to the next. They teach you mechanics such as operating within the low gravity, using these bubbles, swimming up the waterfalls, and then they build upon and put new twists on it. This is good stuff. Adding all of this up between the battles, the waterworks, and these sky islands, this is almost the strongest dungeon lead up in the game. I think the Wind Temple approach just barely nudges out on top with its raw and awesome atmosphere, just giving it that much of an edge. But this is still a lot of fun to do. With that said, once we reach this massive waterfall and met up with Sidon again, we can swim up towards the actual dungeon. Welcome to the Water Temple, also known as the Great Wellspring of Hyrule. Why is it called that? I don't know. I've called the naming conventions of these dungeons into question a few times now, and this is the one where I'm most willing to concede to its status as a temple, so far at least. As for being a wellspring, that implies that it is Hyrule's water source, which I'm simply not buying. This place feels too artificial, too man-made, or Zora-made, I guess. And while it is likely that it existed on the surface once, it doesn't feel right to say it was ever the water source, unless they built some kind of stone shell around the actual water source, but then separating it from the ground and raising it skyward should make it so that the water eventually dries up, in theory. Yet it doesn't. The water coming from these structures is seemingly infinite, which implies something either magical or artificial, like the Zonai hydrants. I'm not sure what else it could be. That makes the most sense to me. So, yeah, Water Temple is actually a temple, I guess. The stage of the amphitheater, if you will, being a place where ceremonies or things like that were conducted. That makes some sense. That aside, I'd like to start off by talking about the positives of the dungeon before I get into my heavier criticisms. So first off, vibe. As previously mentioned, I adore the style of this ancient Zora architecture. The stonework is downright beautiful. While I do wish that it had a little something extra to help distinguish it from all the pre-dungeon locations that use the same architectural style, I'm not sure I'd dog points for this specifically. Truth be told, I really enjoyed just gathering footage for this video because of just how nice the scenery was here. The music is also, once again, really great. There's a magical quality to it. As usual, it builds upon itself as we make progress, starting out with a slower piece. It's a small point, but it feels like that very first note is meant to signal a natural transition from the usual Sky Island theme into this dungeon's theme.
How did that even happen?
The choir voices and gentle piano give this place a feeling of both mystery and tranquility. That really resonates with me. The next phase builds on all of this with a feeling that is a little mysterious and a little more sacred and bold. Phase 3 of the song is my favorite of the bunch. Things start feeling more dramatic, older, but still playful. The sense of curiosity as these bells and strings rise and fall, it's just gorgeous. Phase 4, meanwhile, amps things up even more. The mystique is dropped for tension, as the track incorporates the Attack on Vauruta theme from Breath of the Wild. This section really gives the feeling like you're building towards things, with lots of flourishes. It's great. And finally, Phase 5 drops it all, keeping only a small string layer and those reversed vocals, keeping us on edge. Overall, the music in this dungeon is simply wonderful, just as you'd expect. They blend and flow together and nail that
Whatever, I give up.
but serene,
I'm gonna
playful,
go
but mysterious
see if I can-
atmosphere perfectly. Actually playing through the dungeon is a different story. I mentioned during my Fire Temple video that every playthrough of that dungeon had me leaving appreciating it more. As for the Water Temple, I can't really say that is the case. I am now on my 3rd save file, and every time I play through this dungeon, it only reaffirms my initial instincts about it. This dungeon is, simply put, an underwhelming experience. It does very little, it is very small, and it just isn't very interesting to navigate. Couple that with the fact that Sidon's ability is the least useful and least mechanically interesting ability in the game, and you don't have a very good foundation to build your dungeon upon. And hey, isn't it interesting that this is the only dungeon in which it is Link activating the terminals using Sidon's power, rather than directing the sages to activate the terminals themselves? As much as we love this big hunky himbo, he just can't get past the allegations of being useful to sage. And there's one puzzle in this entire dungeon that actually makes use of his voice.
Holy shirt, I forgot to stop the recording.